25 years ago, when Master Chen Zhangwara first walked into my school, I'd never met him, didn't know who he is, never seen him do anything. He began to move, and he began to show my group of karate guys his Chinese martial arts. Initially, he taught us the 5 fists of Xin Yi, and then he began to teach us some Tai Chi. And in doing that, my students and I, especially my senior students, we observed how he moved. And we immediately were like, oh my God, that's what so-and-so talks about with the principles. But this guy can do it with his body. That was a game changer. Like I often tell the story, I knew after 5 minutes, I would train with him the rest of my life. Okay? He's done a tremendous amount to help my karate. Modern karate has a problem. That problem is it's only interested in what it looks like for a tournament judge. All right? My karate is not about that. My karate is, can I punch a hole in you? Can I snap your arm like a twig? Can I throw you and drive your head into the ground in a very competent manner? The generation of speed, the generation of power. Okay? I'm not interested in playing tag. I'm interested if you try to harm me out there in the real world, that I'm able to defeat you. That's all I'm interested in with my karate. I do no sport sparring in my dojo. Everything is close in, dealing with attacks, including working against multiple opponents. So, having said that, the first thing Master Chen told me about when it came to Tai Chi was the difficulty with Tai Chi is the movement is very restrictive. Okay, well, I'd had a couple other guys teaching Tai Chi in my school, and I'd seen people in the parks. You know, I always saw this kind of stuff, you know, and this, right? And this kind of stuff where they rock and they come back, right? And I'm thinking to myself, when he told me that, I'm thinking, boy, the Tai Chi I've seen doesn't look very restrictive, okay? But again, I found out very quickly, I'd never seen real Tai Chi, okay? People that were renting my space and teaching Tai Chi, well, they just weren't very good. They had no ability, okay? You know, if you think as a 300-pound guy is coming at you, you're going to absorb his energy by rocking back and coming back forward, you're going to be in for a rude awakening, okay? But believe what you will. So now, restricted movement. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, well, it goes back to what we talked about in the previous video a little bit, the rod, and what we talked about in the video before that, which was tossing. And it even goes back to splitting, because if you create the ability to split, you can generate bigger power. Okay, so let's start with the Tai Chi punch. So when I first learned the Tai Chi punch, one of the things Master Chen said to me is that often in Chen-style Tai Chi Chuan, when we punch the person, our fist is already touching them. So, okay. So let's say you're fighting the guy, you're in close, your hand's here, it's on his body, and now from here, we issue. So we issue right from here. There's no retraction. We go from here, and it just goes forward. Okay? And this is called short distance power. So when it comes to the generation of speed and power, this should be the goal of any empty hand martial artist, regardless of the style. Okay? Karate loves to do mostly these big, long punches. Okay? But I know the founder of Isshinryu, when he worked on his own kata that he created, Sun Tzu, he would also often from here, just punch right from here. So just go and punch right from here. That's how he would practice. Now, when I teach it to a beginner, yeah, I have him come back to this point, punch, and come here. But after black belt, I tell people to start working that. Now, can you generate the power? I know I can generate the power. I can generate the speed, all right? But you've got to see if you can do it. Because most people can't do it, so they continue to only punch from here or punch from way back here, so they can what? They can get their mass and the whole body into it when they punch. But again, the thing to understand is this is muscular skill that is very low level. This type of skill, as you get older, will leave you. You will not be able to generate the speed. You will not be able to generate the power anymore. Okay? So as I've said in previous videos, I'll be 61 in a couple of weeks. So if I'm in my position here, right, and I'm from here, I'm like, with my hands up like I'm going to punch, right? So when I punch, right, I don't retract the hand, right? It just goes forward. Just goes forward. Now, on occasion, I put a pad on someone's chest, one of my students, and when I want to show them what short distance power is, I lay one into them. And the first time I do it, their eyes get like this because they're shocked at the power, right? So this is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is, can you achieve tremendous power when your hand only goes a short distance? And don't for a second think the hands are the main focus and the main thing in combat, because they are. Just look at your kata, any style of empty hand martial arts. Ishinryu, go through all your hand kata, add up the amount of hand techniques, add up the amount of foot techniques. You're going to see it's extremely lopsided. Those of you that do the Yilu, okay, feeding crane, Kingai-ryu, Jiu-Jitsu, okay, if you're training in any of those with me, okay, do the same thing. Take the forms, add up the amount of hand techniques, amount of foot techniques, you'll see it's a tremendous difference. So this particular thing we're talking about in the restricted movement is, in the beginning, obviously, you might load up your waist a little bit, again, around that rod, and then fire it and let the waist turn. But eventually, right, my hands are going to be here. They're not going to be here, okay? They're not going to be here. They're going to be here up, right, like ready to protect myself. And if I'm going to punch from here, right, it's got to be a short, small action. So the movement's restricted. It's restricted, and the power is actually bigger. Now, what is not restricted movement? Now, even if I do it that much, see how my head's moving that much? That movement's not restricted. So if you watch, my head doesn't move. My head doesn't move. There's a shaking in the waist, which will be another future video, okay, about Fajin and generating the power with the waist. So all these moves, the movement must be restricted. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So in karate, we often see people come here and come here with the block, whether it's this way, doesn't matter, okay? But again, that's not going to work, okay? Because if the guy is actually attacking you, by the time you bring up your arm here to like cock the trigger and come back, you're already hit. And it's the same with the middle block. It's the same with the head block. So these blocks really are designed to come direct from wherever your hand is. If it's let's say the guy goes to kick you or whatever, and you have to defend yourself, you're just dropping it. You're not winding up and coming here. Again, the movement is much more restrictive. Now, can you generate power with that restricted movement? So again, if I'm using my waist just fires a little bit. That small, fast movement, my waist literally goes this, right? When it does that, it drives the arm forward, tremendous power and speed. And then everything else has to be in alignment, which we'll talk about in the future video. So if you have a lot of excess movement, all right? So for instance, in Tai Chi, we have this section here where we're here and we come here. You know, if you're wobbling, right, as you're walking, right, or if anytime you're moving in the Tai Chi form, there's a wobble, or you've got big extra movements. You know, if you're doing this when you should be doing this, right, just this, right. If you're doing this, that movement's not restricted. So you have to put restrictions on the body. Don't let the body move outside of its natural range. And one of the things with that is you pretend that you're practicing your form in a fish tank. And what does a fish tank have? A fish tank has glass walls. So if I'm doing Seisan and Ishinryu, right, and I do this, right, okay, because I want to feel more power, right, but I didn't restrict myself. Now I just broke the glass of the fish tank, okay? If I'm doing kobudo, you know, and I'm stepping over and I'm doing this, right? Again, the movement's not restricted. I got all this extra movement in my body, right? But if I'm here, okay? And again, in the beginning, it will feel weaker. It will feel to you like it's not as much power. But if you work on it and keep working on it, you'll eventually realize there's a lot more power there. Okay? So restricted movement is a very important concept that's overlooked. All right? So you want to check your forms, whether it be kobudo, sword, jiu-jitsu, okay? Karate, tai chi, feeding crane, Wing Chun, anything, okay? Eskrima, all right? If you've got all this extra movement in your body when you're doing things, big problem, okay? So the idea is this one coincides with the rod. They all coincide with each other. Remember, it's one big recipe that we're putting together. And if we work these different concepts and train them into the body, you'll begin to see a difference in how you move, okay? So how do we know if we have short distance power? Okay, well, the real way you only know is if you hit somebody. And I'm not recommending anybody do that. You should never hit your students, okay? But what you can do is you can have the student hold a pad on themselves, okay? And then what you do is you put the fist fairly close and try to drive in and see the student's reaction, okay? They'll tell you whether or not you have short distance power. Because if they don't move, if you don't knock them backwards with that power, and if they don't feel like their chest went back, okay, you don't have it yet. And that's okay. This is not something you develop right away, okay? Tatsuo Shimbuku, the founder of Ishinru, referred to this as inchi power, all right? So inchi power, the fist travels a lot shorter distance. It's the same what I just told you in the Tai Chi, okay? All right. We're not winding up and doing these kinds of punches. We're not winding up and doing this. No, it's from here and the hand goes out. Okay. So restricted movement, important. Think about it. Check your body. If your body's moving all over the place, you have all these excess movements that you think are helping you to generate power. I can tell you now they're not. Okay. So restrict your movement, bigger power will come out. Try to create the ability to drive power over a very short range, okay? If you can do that, you're beginning to accomplish something, all right? But again, you can't do it like this. That's your mass going forward. No, can you create the rotation in the body? The rod's here. My body rotates around the rod, and the fist just moves forward. Okay? That's what we want to try. And applies to all your hand strikes. And that's it. So, hope you enjoyed this one. All right? So, restricted movement. Remember the fish tank analogy? It'll help correct a lot of things in your movement and your... and again, realize we're trying to bring all these things together eventually in your body so you can do all these things. All right. Hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.